morning everybody, welcome to Sunday. A few questions to answer today. Zabora, first thing. Zabora, West African timber. I did a little bit of research and apparently it's a relatively common timber. West Africa, last week there were some comments on the chat about being a Japanese timber. I believe it's used right throughout the world. But it's a hardwood and we're going to use a little piece in one of our boxes. So I'll show you how it works and how it looks. Secondly, somebody just asked, I think it was Skip, asked about the rebate cutter and the grub screw. Mate, don't quite understand what you're talking about, because if you can't hold the bearing down, you need to have the grub screw in the top of it to hold the bearing on. If you haven't got that, well then I wouldn't bother trying it. Might do some damage. So I think that's the question. The other one was from Graham Bell. Graham asked, are the spacings different for the H and the A as to the mini jig? Yes, they are. Let me show you. This is the A template. I'll just shift this out of the way. I just want to answer these questions while we're at it. That's the A template.
A standard.
The standard A.
Yep.
This is the standard H. And this is the mini jig. Let me turn this one over so you can actually see the difference. You can see that there is a significant difference here and here. And the mini jig, there's quite a bit of spacing. The mini jig is based on the same principles as the H template. The A template is a different router bit altogether. The same router bits are used on the mini jig as are on the H template.
H10.
H10 template. The difference is the spacing. So if you take that right out of the equation, there's the comparisons. You'll see that the two are very, very different. More space on the mini jig.
So if we get down if we can find a H10 box and then a H20 box.
Oh, a H10 box, a H10 box. There's a H10 box. And
what about one of the frames on the tape, your working frames, Cole?
oh, yes. Well, this is the first box I'm going to talk about anyway. H20. You can see the difference. There's a fair bit of space between these ones here as opposed to the H10. So this is H10, this is H20. Same size dovetails, different size spacing between the things. Hope that answers your question, Graham. Now,
I just want to ask Skip a question. Skip, have you lost the shroud on the top of a bearing on the rebate cutter? So they're not the bearings aren't sealed and they're covered by a metal shroud that looks like a washer. And I was just wondering whether you'd lost that shroud. But as long as you haven't lost that little locking key thing on the top of your rebate. No, so you haven't lost the shroud. Okay. Right, I'm not quite sure. We might need to talk to you after the show to see what's going on there.
Yep.
Okay.
I think that might be a good idea. Okay. Now, we're going to go through a whole lot of processes, but there's something that I do usually when I'm prepping for the lid of a box. Now, we did the framework last week. I showed you how to dress the top of there, cut the rebate for the lid, and I have a frame pieces made as well. We're going to make a frame today, so I'm going to show you what we're doing there. But in the process of making the box, what we do is we find something that's going to be a feature in the box, and particularly with the box where you've got very, very plain timbers. Like, okay, walnut and silver ash are not plain, but they are visually. So what we found was the piece of Zavora. Some people call it zebrana, I think it, or zebrana, I think it's called, is the timber. And so I had a piece of it here, a large piece, and I've cut from that a piece of small bit that's going to go in the box, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to actually use a frame that has some complementary colours to it. So that's what we were looking for. But what I needed to do, I needed to have a look and see exactly what it looks like when it's sanded up and finished before we actually make a decision as to whether we're going to use it or not. And we're going to use it, but this is what it looks like with a bit of finish on it after about half an hour, I suppose, of letting it sit. And this is how I go about it. I'll grab myself a piece of thing, and you can see here that when I paint, I'll just paint the rest of it. Now, the finish that I'm going to be using on it is the Constantia finish, the Chinese wood oil. And what I'll do is I'll just paint that and let it sit for about an hour before I actually do anything to it. I'm not going to do it this time, I'm just going to polish it off so you can see what it looks like. And just by giving it a polish, we can actually see the result that we're going to get. Now, that may not fit the box that we're working with. In this case it does, but we want to see what it looks like when we've got our complementary timbers. So that's what it's going to look like once we've got the frame made and put together. So that's generally what I will do in the process of actually building these boxes. Now, so let me put that aside. Actually, what I'll do is I'll show you where we're up to with all the boxes. We're at different stages for each of the boxes. Box 1, box 2 was the rose mahogany box. Box 3 was the walnut box, and box 4 was the Honduran mahogany box. And these are the timbers that we've chosen for the top. You can see I've got a few different timbers that will go on there. So on this one here we've got the zebrano, or the zebra wood. This one here we've got a bit of lace she oak from Western Australia. Very rare, this bird's eye lace she oak.
Very pretty, isn't it?
Very pretty, it's red. This is a she oak as well. It's a different variety. This one's from around Canberra somewhere.
It doesn't look like a traditional she oak that we've been using in box making. This is very patterned.
And this is forest oak from around here. So around Coffs Harbour, mid-north coast area. So that's a local timber. The Honduran mahogany is not from here. Walnuts from the US, of course. The rose mahogany, which I have the framework here, is from a local timber, and the silver ash is, I can't remember where that came from. But anyway, and this is what we've done with the lids. Of course, we've got walnut and silver ash for that one. This one is silver ash and the rose mahogany the framework is made of. I'll be showing you how to put all that together. This one is a combination of three. So we have, I thought we had ebony here, but apparently it's not. It's African hardwood, African blackwood, which is a different kettle of fish altogether. So there's two different timbers there. Silver ash and the walnut, which is the frame of the box to match to that one, and I'll show you how to put all that together. So I'll be doing that. And this is the one we're going to be working on today. And what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be matching up some of the Honduran mahogany from the framework of the box with some silky oak, and this is local silky oak as well. So I've got local silky oak and local forest oak to go with the Honduran, the Honduran mahogany. Blah blah. I'll get my tongue out of my mouth in a minute. So that's the combinations that we're going to use with all of these boxes. So over the period of a couple of weeks, so we're going to be putting all that together. I'll show you how to build one of them, and during the off time off camera, I'll continue to work with the rest of them and get them all pretty and looking nice for you. So it took us a little bit. Pam and I sat down and we had a little think about what we needed to do to make those boxes look nice, and that's what we've come up with. So hopefully we're going to have some really good results. So today, as you can see, the timber is not very well dressed, it's not very well prepped, but we have to prepare it. You can see it's a little bit bent in places, and
it's a bit hard to see. Yeah. It looks fine on camera.
Yeah, but yeah, so these pieces of timber are generally offcuts from other boxes I've made in the past, and they often I have quite a few of those hanging around, and I have a little tub out the back where I can keep all that sort of stuff. You know, a piece of rose mahogany, or a piece of walnut, you know, like they're just leftover bits and pieces that, but they do work out nice framework. Silver ash, and of course the African hardwood there. So let me put all this stuff aside, and I want to go through the process of actually dressing the timber back down to, it's something I did last week, and I had a number of questions, not last week, in the last box, and I had a number of questions asked about it, so I want to go over that again and just show you how I got to the result that I had. So eventually what we're going to end up with is a lid that looks a little bit similar to this one. Some of the lids have an extra piece added out, or what we call an inlay, but it's on the outside. We sometimes put them on the inside. We're going to do the butterflies, and we're going to put a little lifter on it as well. So one of the boxes will end up with all of this sort of features added into the box. So,
Cole, before you start, I was just thinking that while we've got the opportunity on camera, can you bring out a rebate cutter and take the top off it and the bearing, and we'll see if we can establish what Skip's missing.
another question?
No, it's just I would like to
Skip, this is
take the opportunity while we're on camera to just nut out what he might be missing.
This is the rebate cutter, and this is how it comes. It comes with a 3/32 screw in the top, holding the bearing in place. So it has a small bearing. So let me put it in here. The easiest way for me to do this is to do it this way. .332 Allen key. Take that off. There are no extra bits and pieces to the grub screw, to the bearing. It's just a plain bearing. There's no extra bits and pieces on top of there. The 19mm bearing is just a standard bearing. It goes on like so, and screw it in place. If you don't have that screw in there, well, of course that's going to come off. Right. And when you replace it, and when you take the other one, take this one off and you put this one back on again, replace it with the grub screw. If you don't have that grub screw, the bearing's not going to stay there.
Yeah, okay. I just not wanted to show you to break it down so that we could see what was involved in the out of the packet cutter.
Okay, now let's get back to where we were. A straight cutter. This one's a compression bit. two-flute compression bit.
Well, this is the really interestingly
Yeah, it's
shaped.
an interesting shape one.
Yeah.
So what we're doing here is I'm going to dress the tops of these down, and then I'm going to cut a rebate on either side of here, and then dress these ones here to match those. So our first step is to put a fence in. I'm going to use a small fence rather than a big one. I find this works quite well. Adjust the height of the route a bit. Just above the thickness of the timber. For those of you who ask the questions, I generally don't go too much above. And then I find, by moving my fence back and forth, I find the shortest distance between here and here on all four corners. So that one's quite short. If I put it over onto this side, and Pam just moved the camera. So now we're a little bit closer. So if I look at this, put it back over to here, you can see it's only just touching the route a bit. But when we use the other side,
Yeah, that's better.
I know it's at the bottom of the route of the thing, but you can see that it actually is going to take a little bit off. So that's that one. Let's try this side. And that just touches. A bit more off that side. So the shortest one was this one here, I think. Just checking again. I'll lock that in. Now I'm going to be working from the other side of the fence, so Pam's going to go a little dance around the jig, and I'm going to be working from this side. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to push through my route a bit this way. So ears on everybody.
I'm back in this spot again. It's hard to know which is the best side.
So what that's done is given me a flat surface here and here. Okay, they're perfectly smooth because the route bit's actually an exquisite route bit to use. Take that off. Now the next one, in my past explanations of doing this next step, I used to say adjust the tenon cutter, because this is the one we're going to use to cut the rebate and to dress up the top of it. What I used to do is I used to go, this is past, used to set that so that I was looking to find the smallest amount of contact there and on the other side. And then I realised The distance I need from the top of there to the top of here is 10 millimeters because my timber is 10 millimeters thick. That's the thickness of the lid. So I've come up with a new idea. Set my LARK tool at 10 millimeters and adjust the height of the route a bit. To 10 millimeters. Which to me sounds a fairly logical thing to do. And that should be the thickness of my piece of material. We could use that as an adjuster too. So what we need to do now is work out where I want to do my step. So if I want to do my step in here, just this much, then I have to set the fence to just take that much out. So let me put that on this side so I can see what I'm doing.
Don't move it because it catches the glare.
So I'm only going to take a small amount off, it's about 2 millimeters. So if I set my fence to that, and Pam can't see this one because I'm over here. And I'll just set that through the 2 points. Really difficult to see it, but
yeah,
you get the picture. And again, I'm going to work from this side. This time, I'm going to feed through my piece of timber there. As you can see, it's going to take a little bit off the inside edge of here, but we'll fix that as well. So, ease on everybody. Now in the process of actually cutting that 10 millimeters, you can see I've got a bit of a step here. What I need to do is I need to take the top off here. So it's quite a considerable step there, basically because it took a lot off the top edges. So it's just a matter of doing this. Ears on.
Excuse me.
Now by doing that, what I've got here now is I've got parallel surface top and bottom, parallel surfaces there, and I've got my little rebate on the bottom. So when I put my lid on there, it's flush at the top. The two pieces of material that I'm going to use as the framework, again, are now flush with the top of the box. And everything is flush. Everything is parallel. So now it's just a matter of making the lid frame.
Ozzy wants to know, can you show the compression cutter to us? And he asks, do we sell it?
Who's that?
Ozzy?
Ozzy, we don't sell a compression cutter. You can buy that from Carby Tool. There are 2 flute and 4 flute ones. If you jump on Carby Tool website, you'll see them there. This is the 2 flute one that we've used. You can see that.
That's it. T2 SRM 1 16
and a half.
Oh, 16 and a half.
Yeah, T2 SRM 16 and a half. Have you got your pencil there, Ozzy? Write that down.
2 flute compression bit.
Yep. You can get a 2 flute and a 4 flute. So it'll be T4 for the 4 flute. I noticed Dave Stanton's a fan of the compression bit. He thinks it's quite a nice one as well. So those of you who watch Dave. Okay. Get rid of that. Put that back. Okay, now we're going to put together the material for the lid. Get the box. So the first thing we need to do is we need to have some timber that's long enough. So we need 2 pieces here, 2 pieces here, of course, and 2 pieces there. So, a ruler. And generally when I do this, I do, well, it's 250 is the length of the box. So if I make a couple of pieces of that at 250, and across here is 160. If I make it say 180, that'll give me an extra little bit of length. The piece of panel is big enough. So I need 2 pieces at 250 and 4 pieces at 250 and 4 pieces at, what did I say, 180. Okay, so over to the drop saw. This is where we dress our piece of timber up for use. So I'm not too concerned at the moment if they're not square on the ends. $250, and I'm not trying to have grain match either. It's fairly pointless with this stuff because it's very, very plain. If you had something with a little bit of figure in it, you might find that you'd have to sort of focus a little bit on getting the grain all matching up so it matches around the framework of the box. Now the technique I'm using here, I'm going to make 4 boards. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to join 2 together like that. The reason being is because these are relatively thin. And I want a reasonable amount of thickness in the width in the frame itself. sometimes I will do this. And you can see by looking at the end of the piece of timber, I've actually made that piece to fit, or the two frame bits to fit the centre bit, and I'll just cut that down the middle, and that would be a similar sort of setup. Cut that down the middle, gives me a thin bit, but this one I want a little bit wider, so I'm going to make 4 different pieces. I think I said 150 or 160, or let's say 170, see what we've got. I'll just get 170 out of it, which is enough to fit the box. I might go 175. Just give me enough. I'm close to the edge with this one, so there's not a lot of timber left. So I can't afford to make a mistake. If I do make a mistake, it'll mean have to find some other timber. Okay, now the secret to getting this stuff right is to make sure that everything is parallel to each other. Everything is clean cut and fits nicely when it gets glued together. So this is how I go about doing that. Let's work on the thinnest piece of timber. I sit them up there and see which one's the thinnest piece of timber, and it's this little one in the middle here. That's the thinnest piece. So if we do them all the same size, and I've got plenty of timber to work with, so we'll do them all this size, and then we'll be good to go. So the first thing I'm going to do is dress up one edge, and all I'm going to do is just trim that enough excuse me, to just give me a clean edge. A couple at a time. Find the straightest edge to go against the fence. That's not going to work. I'll use the small one. Lovely clean edge. I'm just going to turn this around so I can get out the hole down on it. These two. Straightest bit, straightest edge. And that one. Ding. Do these exactly the same. just want to trim up the other side. That will give me a perfectly parallel piece of timber. Need to readjust a little bit. Just want to trim the edge off it. Don't want to be taking too much off. I'm not too concerned about the measurement. All I'm concerned about is getting two parallel pieces of timber. Those together, you can see that they're actually quite nice now. So you get a nice clean straight edge, and that's straight off a bandsaw when I cut them originally. It takes a little time, this stuff, but it's really worth the effort. Okay, there's all my pieces of timber. So off to the bench. Another little dance around Pamela.
It's the only time you take me dancing.
Now. Okay. So what I want to do here, I'm going to join two pieces of this together. Two pieces of this together. And these are all got to be joined. So I'm just widening the border actually, basically. That's what I'm going to be doing. So what I want to do is I'm going to put a tenon on there, or a tongue. But I want to cut a rebate in here because I want this to be the widest piece. If I cut a rebate or a tenon in here and put the two together, it's going to be like this. And I want this one to be the widest piece because it's the one that features on the box, and this one's going to be on the inside. So, or we can do it the other way around if you like. Put that on the outside, have the timber on the inside. Probably doesn't look very nice that way, probably looks nicer that way. Okay, let's do it that way. Okay, so tenon, rebate on here, so we've got to cut a trench along here halfway. Those aside. And to do the trench, I'm going to use a 4mm slot cutter to do that. Now, in our kit, we have a 3.2 slot cutter. That's the one that we sell. This one here is an extra, and you can pick that up from the Carby tool as well. Exactly the same tool, just a bit thicker in the tooth. Now, the reason I'm using a 4mm is to give me a little bit more strength in the piece. And if I decide that I want to cut a trench in the thin piece of the timber, I'm not going to take away the walls of support that's offered by the tongue. Okay, so find my halfway, and I'll use my usual technique. Do this, and then I'll do this. And it gives me my line. And then when we set up, set up to there. Now, if it's not in the middle, it doesn't really matter because you're going to have plenty of support on either side of that. This is 10 mil, that's 4, so you've got at least 2 mil either side of it. If it comes down to 1.5 mil, that doesn't really matter either. And we need a fence. Again, this is going to annoy Pamela because she's going to have to come around behind me.
It's no problem.
We can use the dust extractor with this one as well.
Okay. I just want the best view for our audience, really.
Okay, so I'll bring that across, and what I want is I want a 10mm deep trench. So I had a LARK tool there once. I'll put it down somewhere. Oh, it's over there. Different one. We'll get the Corrigan.
Yeah, the Corrigan special.
The Corrigan signature purple. Set that at 10 mil. There's my 10 mil. See if that comes out a bit further. That's my 10 mil. I need to stay that side.
Yeah.
Dust extractor. And push block, earmuffs. So, ears on everybody. All I'm going to do is I'm going to push through. I'm going to use this one here to hold that up against the fence, and my push block on there so that my fingers are well away from the router bit. And so there's my trench. Now I ran that through this way. To make sure it's in the middle, I'm going to flip it over and recut it. So there's my trenches. What I need to do now is cut a tongue that will fit in that trench. So, a little bit of change of setup. Just take the fence off. I'll need a different router bit. This is where our tenon cutter comes back in. Somebody said to me once, why don't you just cut a little rebate and stick a piece of wood in it? I found that over time, if I just cut a little rebate on here and then stuck another piece of wood in it, or just join the two pieces like that, that eventually the bits fall apart, fall to pieces. And of course that degrades your box very quickly. So what I'm doing now is, because these pieces of timber are exactly the same thickness, I'm just going to set my height of the router bit to this little section here. So that'll be to the top of the trench. Usually I can get it pretty good straight away. If not, well, I'll just do a little bit of adjustment. But that takes practice. So if you have a spare piece of timber that you want to do an adjustment with, by all means do that. Should be pretty close. You may need to adjust it a little bit, but that will fix that when I have to. Okay, now the fence we're using for this one is this one. Now my trench is 10mm deep. We had our LARK tool set. So I'm going to set that to 10mm. Right, that's exactly the depth of the trench. I don't want to go to the depth of the trench because I want to be able to allow a little bit of movement in there. So if I just bring that out a 0.5 millimetre, and so I don't know if you can see down in there. You can't quite see down in there. I've got a 0.5 millimetre extra, so I've only gone out 9mm. I had a clamp. Dust extractor. Those dust hoods work so well now. I've got used to using them all the time. Apart from that, they can't be used. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to feed across there. This block is on. Perfect fit. This one again. Okay, glue up time. Now I'm going to glue that together, just show you how I go about gluing it together. It's quite important that you actually pay fairly good attention to how you glue these up. So what you can see now is that the lighter timber is actually narrower than the other framework timber. Eventually what I want is about 35 millimetres across here. This is about 40 at the moment. So I'm going to be trimming a little bit off once I get it sorted, once I get it all glued up. A little bit of glue. This is a case of how many clamps do you need? Somebody said to me, but Jude, you've got enough clamps. Well, watch this. A bit of this. And so this is how I go about gluing it together. I feed a reasonable amount of glue on there. Make sure you get right up into the corner, because that's going to be the primary piece of contact between the two bits. A little flush on the end. Now here we go with the clamps. I usually put one on each end. Now you don't have to do it this way if you don't want to, but I find it works. One on this end. And when I put these on, the middle ones, put one on here, so I'm on that side, and I'll put one here, and do the same on the other end. And the reason I put one on either side is because if you put them all on one side, it does that to the timber. It bends it this way or that way. If you put one on either side, it keeps it even. So for one little piece of timber there, what do you got? 2, 4, 6 clamps. How many clamps do you need? Wipe the excess off.
The debate is, and the consensus is, that you can never have enough too many clamps.
Exactly. These little ones are actually perfect for this task. And there we have one piece of the frame.
And also, apparently I need a pay rise. as the camera woman.
Who said that?
John Gibbs. He said you should pay me more money.
She gets to dance, mate. That's the payoff. She gets to dance.
He gets to buy me coffee.
Oh yeah, I do that.
And a croissant.
I've got 2 little tasks that I need to do today. after I've got these glued up, so hang around for a little bit. Good thing I made a mistake and bought too many of these.
Yeah.
It doesn't take that long to get these together. Off my excess glue.
I appreciate the comments from Ozzy and John. It means they forgive all my dodgy camera work. and an inferior camera. I'll blame it on the camera.
Blame it on the camera,
Yeah.
You might as well.
No, I can't do that.
I'm trying to get this done as quickly as possible. Well, I've got the glue out. Might as well do this one as well. And now I just need to clamp them together. Actually, what I might do, I said to you last week that I was going to introduce a new component to
Yes. It's already 11
a
o'clock.
mini jig.
So you better do that. Otherwise,
I'll do that. Otherwise, I'll get.
Ozzy won't talk to you again.
Let me finish my fit up first.
That hour goes quickly.
Yeah. Somebody said last week how time flies when you're having fun. Now you can see the value in some of the boxes that we make. If it takes you this long to do the small componentry of the box, those people who sell them for $5 and $10 each, doing themselves an injustice.
Oh, they're devaluing their work, aren't they?
Devaluing their work.
Yeah.
Particularly when you've got exceptionally good skills. One we go.
So how many of those little butterfly Bessies have you got? About 36?
Yeah, something like that. Enough to do this job and another one as well.
So there's the ones that are hanging on the wall, and there's the ones that are on the framework, plus the ones that Cole's putting on now. It's a bit of out of sight, out of mind with these little clamps because they're behind the bandsaw. But you have as many as you need, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Gotta have a couple.
A couple.
I can't afford the bigger ones. They're quite expensive, these things. And there's my frameworks. Now, the introductory. When we first built the mini jig, I built it with the intention that if you were doing lots of butterflies in your work, you didn't, if you were cutting the butterflies, it took you, you needed to have a separate template you needed to have a separate stop with the 45 cut on it, and you needed to have something to lean your timber against. And I have a box here that I was playing with earlier. Got to find it. I've put it down somewhere and I can't see it.
Is there anything over there?
There it is. This is a box that I've been working on in overtime, and I've got the framework I've already cut out. So I've cut out my butterflies. I cut out my miters, and we're going to do that next week. We're going to actually cut the frames to fit the boxes. This is just one that I've already got sorted. So what I was going to do here, and I don't have a piece of timber for the centre of this one yet, but as you can see, it's quite a nice little picture frame. I'm going to have a little panel that goes inside that, and that's going to go on that box that I had on the bench there, right? So what we decided to do, well I decided, was we'll build a jig, and I had an offcut of the frame of the aluminium, and I've just built a template, cut the backing boards to fit, all the other bits and pieces, and then I've put on a couple of stops, and I've put a 45 degree on there. Originally there wasn't a 45, originally it was just a straight one, and the idea was to sit that onto there, rest it on the top of the other stop, and then bring this one up to support. And I thought, well, that's not very safe because it's overhanging. This one often didn't fit. There were various reasons why it didn't work very well. So what we decided to do was to build the support. Now I had originally made them out of compact laminate, and the support was designed so that we could fit a piece of timber on it and have it resting, and then cut a 45 degree on the stop and bring the stop up to actually do that, right? This is what happened to that. What I would do is I would put a stop on, put a clamp on there, but I also have to have a clamp on this side, holding this in place. The problem there was, again, and this is what we talked about last week, we have all of this sort of stuff in the way. It's difficult, it's awkward, it doesn't work very well, but we still had a reasonable result. Just let me get this off here. We could still fit that where we wanted to do, because this section has to be flat on the bottom of the jig. I can move this up to here. Then you put your first one on, and those of you who have this system already, that's how you'll be working, right? And then what you need to do is put your piece of timber on, work out where you want your dovetail, the butterfly to work, and then slide this up and hold it in place. Alright. Now the thing with that is that you can take that off and do that, cut the other one. You can put your smaller one on, it works. You can turn it over and have it in exactly the same spot. That way all of your butterflies end up in exactly the right spot, right? But you still have that issue where holding the piece of timber in place, you've got all this clamping business happening, and it's just not going to work for you. So this is what we've come up with. So first of all, let me do a little measurement. Now what I want to do is, I'll do it with a LARK tool. I want to set the LARK tool at, say, 7mm, or you can set it at 8mm. You need a sharp pencil for this. Okay, so that's the depth of my cut. Okay, now where do I want the trench? I'll leave that at 7mm. Where do I want the thing, my piece of timber? Get the right ruler. Now remember, you've got a 2mm piece that you've got to cut off here anyway, so your distance from there to 2mm in is 50mm, 25 is halfway, so that might be my centre of where I'm going to put my butterfly. Okay, so we set up. Just take that off there. I hope you're following this. Okay, so we're all set to go. It's the H10 dovetail bit that we're using for the butterflies. We can put away one of these because we don't need two anymore. And here's the part that we're going to do. Get rid of that, get rid of that. We have developed a stop to replace this one. It just made so much sense to me to do that. That's the stop that comes off the jig. This is the one that's going to go on it. It's exactly the same. There's no difference. It's red. On the top it says 45 on that side. Got our logo on it, of course. And that just replaces the jig. Now we can choose a whole lot more spaces. We haven't got half of the jig taken up by those two components. We've got this one here. We can move it along the jig anywhere we like. So all I have to do here is line up with the centre. I can go there, I can go there, there, there. I can work my way all the way along. I'm going to use the middle of the jig, of course. Find my mark in the middle. Bring up my stop. Bring up the support for it. Actually, that's the stop, that's the support. And all I have is one clamp. Adjust my height. Okay, shift those bits out of the way. I had a pair of earmuffs somewhere.
Behind you. The side. Underneath the box. Over here, Cole.
Oh. Okay, ears on. apart from a little bit of tidy up. There are my keys. All line up nicely. Everything's in perfect shape.
Very nice.
And once I've done that, I can convert the jig back to a standard jig.
And I should mention that you can actually buy these parts. You're going to talk about the upgrade kit, were you?
I was just going to say that all of our upgrade kits will have that in it now, rather than this. If you find one of those in, it's just a gift from us. All of our complete kits will have that on it as well as one of these, so it'll be complete with everything in it. You might even find a little gift of one of those, so you can use it for something else. But the thing about it is that will fit on most of our other jigs anyway, and you can swap and change around a little bit if you wish to use a bigger dovetail or a bigger key. But anyway, this is our new, and we call it a support stop. All right, so if you're going to order one, support stop. They're the same price as the standard stop. So
as the 45
degree stop. So if you have a look on our website, you'll find the price there. But yeah, you can buy it as an extra, or you can buy it with a complete kit. I do recommend that people buy a complete kit. That way you're not chopping and changing bits and pieces on your standard jig anyway. So that's it for today. I hope you got something out of this. Next week we will be we'll be cutting the frames for all of those, and getting things, and I'll be cutting the butterflies. I'll probably do that one during the week, but we'll be cutting butterflies and doing all sorts of things like that next week. So we're going to continue with the lid frame, and then we'll get hinged and put it on the box and make it look pretty. Now that might take a couple of weeks, but anyway, we'll get it done as best we can. So have a good week, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for staying on a little bit longer. As always, the boxes we make are for sale, and if you wish to continue watching and you want to subscribe, by all means do that, and we'll catch you all again next week. So have a good week, everybody.
Bye.
See you.